The crisp, refreshing taste of an ice-cold soda? Pop? Soft drink? While the name of these carbonated beverages is disputed, people all over the world have been enjoying these delicious drinks for well over a century now. For some, they are a nice treat once in a while, maybe when catching a movie or going out to eat, while for others, their morning soft drink is an everyday essential. Soda pop has a long and storied history, with many beloved brands dating back to the 1800s. When was your favorite soda invented? Stay tuned to find out, because on this episode of Every Last Crumb, we're swimming through the sea of soft drinks to explore the most popular sodas of the 19th century. If you like this video, make sure to stick around for our next video where we continue this journey through the 20th century. Carbonated beverages were first invented in the 18th century by Joseph Priestley when he discovered a method to infuse water with carbon dioxide and shared his findings in a paper entitled "Impregnating Water with Fixed Air." I guess that's one way to put that. Originally, those experimenting with this soda water were trying to imitate naturally occurring mineral water. In 1783, Johann Jacob Schweppe improved upon Priestley's methods and founded the Schweppes Company in Geneva, Switzerland, and his carbonated water soon became very popular. In the early 1800s, carbonation techniques were made more and more practical, and soon soda fountains began springing up in pharmacies across the United States. Pharmacists added all sorts of ingredients like lemon, ginger, and birch bark into soda water, because there's nothing more tasty than a birch bark soda. Can we get an amen? In 1851, a company in Ireland, now known as Cantrell and Cochrane, invented ginger ale. The ginger ales of the late 19th century were of the golden variety, featuring a darker profile and a zestier ginger flavor. As this drink's popularity spread, the history of soft drinks as we know it kicked off, and the next few decades saw a plethora of new carbonated drinks stream from soda fountains everywhere. After importing the popular C&C ginger ale from Dublin, James Verner began experimenting with his own ginger ale recipes as a clerk at the Higbee and Stearns drugstore in Detroit, Michigan. Legend has it that as he was tinkering with the recipe, he was called to serve in the Civil War. In order to preserve his work, he stored his syrup in an oak cask. Upon returning in 1866, much to his surprise, the oak cask had enhanced the flavor of his drink. We aren't certain anyone should be going around and storing syrups in barrels for years at a time and then drinking it, but we're happy Verner did. This barrel aging gave the bold, zesty ginger ale a nice undertone of oak and became essential to the recipe. Verner's ginger ale was one of the first soft drinks ever developed in the United States, and the people of Detroit loved it. Originally, Verner's Pharmacy was the only spot one could find this delicious drink, but he soon started selling his beverage to other retailers, ensuring they installed the proper equipment before serving the carbonated drink. Verners became a fan favorite across the Midwest, and the bottling plant located on 4501 Woodward Avenue in Detroit served as the base of operations. James Verner passed away in 1927, and his family joked that he only retired a few hours before he died. The business stayed in the family until 1966, when they sold it to an investment group who turned around and sold it to American Consumer Products. The Verners brand changed hands a number of times, at one point ending up with A&W, but today it is owned by Keurig Dr. Pepper. Verners is marketed as the original ginger soda and has since expanded from a local Midwest specialty to a national ginger ale brand. Unfortunately, the oak aging process has phased out, but should you want to try sticking some ginger syrup in a barrel and then carbonating it, we fully support you. Originally introduced by Charles Elmer Heyer in the city of brotherly love, Heyer's root beer is believed to have been the first commercially available root beer in United States history. The story goes that while Heyer's was on his honeymoon in New Jersey, he encountered an herbal tea made from roots and berries that was delicious. When he returned to Philadelphia, he began experimenting with different recipes, and lo and behold, Heyer's root beer was born. Though the exact recipe isn't public, this this original root beer was made by boiling some combination of birch bark, licorice, ginger, sarsaparilla, wintergreen, and juniper berries. I bet his pharmacy smelled good. After simmering for a while, he removed the ingredients, and the extract could then be used to make his drink. In 1876, Ahhhh began selling his root tea extract at his pharmacy, and he unveiled his masterpiece at the U.S. Centennial Exhibition in Philadelphia that same year. In the beginning, Ahhhh didn't sell actual root beer, instead selling the extract, to which consumers would add sugar, yeast, and water in order to brew it. Ahhhh soon realized it was silly to make his customers do all the work and started bottling the root beer himself. As for the name root beer, comes from Ahhh's attempt to sell the drink to the working class as an alternative to alcohol. Originally calling it root tea, it turns out 19th century laborers in factories weren't crazy about an herbal tea made from roots and berries, but beer they could get behind. Ahhhh capitalized on the temperance movement of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, marketing his product as the temperance drink. America went bonkers for root beer, and by the early 1900s, it's estimated that Ahhh's root beer was available in over 90% of soda fountains and dairy stores in the U.S. Ahhhh firmly believed in advertising, following the motto, "Doing business without advertising is like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does." Point taken, Mr. Ahhhh, point taken. Eventually, competitors like A&W and Barks overtook the Ahhh's brand, but if you search hard enough, you can still find one of these relics at specialty soda shops. Doctor, give me the news. I've got a bad case of loving you. While we aren't certain, we are pretty sure this Robert Palmer lyric is talking about Dr. Pepper. Created in 1885 by Charles Alderton in Waco, Texas, Dr. Pepper's 23 ingredients give it a distinct flavor that helped it stand out from the crowd of competitors. Alderton worked at Morrison's old corner drugstore, where he liked to experiment with the soda fountain. He wanted to create a drink that tasted like the soda fountain smelled, with all the different flavors combined. When he finally made a drink that he liked, he offered it to store owner Wade Morrison, who also enjoyed it. The origin of the name is unclear, but one popular theory is that Morrison named it Dr. Pepper, and after Dr. Charles T. Pepper, a physician and pharmacist for whom Morrison had worked for in Virginia. Morrison and Robert Lansonby, who owned a ginger ale company in Waco, were the ones who first bottled the drink and promoted it, forming the Artesian Manufacturing and Bottling Company, which later became the Dr. Pepper Company. Dr. Pepper bursted out of Waco at the 1904 World Fair, and the brand really caught fire during the 1940s. World War II was a difficult time for soft drink production because sugar was rationed, but Dr. Pepper navigated this era by marketing themselves as a liquid bite to eat that provided energy to wartime workers and soldiers. Their popular slogan, "Drink a bite to eat at 10, 2, and 4, was used heavily in this decade. And Dr. Pepper also introduced their mascot, Willie the Hillbilly, who serenaded radio listeners with the Dr. Pepper Difference jingle. Dr. Pepper also ran the "I'm a Pepper, You're a Pepper" ad campaign with David Naughton throughout the 1970s. Today, Dr. Pepper is one of the most celebrated sodas in the world and consistently ranks in the top 5 most popular sodas in America. Not bad, Doctor. Not bad. It was 1886 in Atlanta, Georgia, when John Pemberton invented the most popular soft drink in the history of mankind. Originally, CocaCola was marketed as a patent medicine that could cure all ailments from indigestion to morphine addiction. Using a unique blend of coca leaves and cola nuts, which is where the name Coca-Cola comes from, the original recipe was supercharged with caffeine and a not-so-insignificant amount of Coke? Yes, that kind of Coke. That's right, the original Coca-Cola contained actual Coke from the coca leaves it imported from Peru. Originally hailed as a medicinal miracle after the compound was extracted and refined in the mid-19th century, Coke was included in the recipe of many patent medicines and carbonated tonics. Snake oil salesmen told Americans the drug was a cure-all, and doctors regularly prescribed it to patients. All we can say about Coca-Cola's patent medicine status is that the medical community no longer supports replacing morphine with Coke as a means to cure addiction. It wasn't long before the public caught on to the scourges of Coke addiction, and in 1903, Coca-Cola changed its recipe when the Stepan Company derived a method to remove Coke from coca leaves. Thus, the recipe still uses coca leaves, just not the Coke. But if you've ever seen kids after they guzzle down one or two of these suckers at a birthday party, you might think the old-school recipe is still around. A few factors contributed to the meteoric rise of Coca-Cola. First, Asa Griggs Candler purchased the company from Pemberton and began heavily advertising in newspapers, posters, and soda fountain urns, helping the brand to become a household name. The company was later acquired by Ernest Woodruff in 1919, who assured the brand's high standards would be met by retailers selling the drink, instructing them that the Coke must be sold at 36 degrees Fahrenheit. Coca-Cola also started selling their soda in syrup form by selling syrup to pharmacies and soda shops, who would then add the carbonated water themselves. Coca-Cola was able to move more product across the country, and finally, the company started selling Coke in their distinctive contour glass bottle. This bottle, developed by the Root Glass Company in 1915, quickly became the most recognized product packaging in the world, and people still go crazy for a glass Coke. Trust us, it just tastes better. Today, Coca-Cola is the most popular soda, and it isn't even close. Enjoying a faithful consumer base all across the globe, Coca-Cola is one of the most recognizable brands in the world, and everything from the branding to the cola taste is undoubtedly iconic. Coca-Cola's closest competitor, Pepsi Cola, was originally created in 1983 by North Carolina-based Caleb Brandom. Originally called Brad's Drink, Pepsi Cola was made from a unique blend of sugar, water, caramel, lemon oil, nutmeg, and cola nut, and it was marketed as a means to treat indigestion or dyspepsia. Get it? Pepsi, dyspepsia? Bradham successfully marketed his cola using flashy advertisements and catchy jingles, but made a massive mistake when he bought too much sugar in 1923. Anticipating that the price of sugar would skyrocket, he bought a stockpile of sugar. When the market actually plummeted, he was sitting on tons of overpriced sugar. Oof, looks like that gamble didn't pay off. This ruined Bradham's business, and it looked as if Pepsi was destined to be forgotten like many other colas of the era. But in 1931, Charles Guth and the Loft Candy Company purchased the company, reformulated the drink, rebranded it, and turned it into a massive success. Today, Pepsi is enjoyed more in the northern United States and is the main rival of Coca-Cola, with the company owning a significant share of the soft drink market. Pepsi is most often given to you when, upon walking into a restaurant, bright-eyed and excited, you order a Coke. When the waiter responds, "I'm sorry, we only have Pepsi, is that okay?" The lights dim in your eyes, your shoulders sink as you slump into your seat, mumbling, "Yes, that's fine," as you wonder what kind of business you wandered into. Just kidding, it tastes pretty good.